Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. It's great to have you with us here on Dialed In. And I mean, we're dialed in from points all over America today. Thanks for being with us. I'm joined, of course, by Luke Brenneman and our producer engineer, Mr. Casey McAllister. We come your way twice a week, live on Mondays, and we're trying to figure out what we're going to do on Fridays. I've been talking about that for a while, but we'll get to Luke here in a second. His schedule has changed a little bit at Indiana University. Allegedly, classes are in session there. And of course, we post on the Believe Network. You can find us on YouTube. That's a Chatterbox Sports page. You can download us anytime, anywhere. Just search Dialed In with Tom Brenneman, and you will be dialed in. So, Luke, Casey, gentlemen, good morning. I am in Corvallis, Oregon. I've never been here before. And I got to tell you, this is a nice little college town. And that's exactly what it is. I mean, Indiana's a lot bigger, much bigger school. There's only about, I think, 12 or 14,000 kids that go to school here at Oregon State. It's hard to get to, but it is beautiful. This is about, I think, 7 or 8 states that I've never been to before. And I've surrounded it, been to Washington, been to California, but never been to Oregon. And flew into Eugene yesterday. That's where the University of Oregon is. And man, oh man, are they fired up about their football team. I mean, I ran into people just sitting in line for the rental car and all this stuff. I had an Ohio State shirt on. They're looking at me like, are you going to the game? Because they're playing in October. A lot of people think that's going to be the college football game of the regular season. We'll see about that. But of course, Ohio State ranked number 2, Oregon ranked number 3. And they're already talking about that game. You jump in a car in Eugene, you drive 5 minutes to Corvallis. Pretty country here. But good morning, gentlemen. Lukey, Casey, how we doing, man?
Good morning. I'm doing good. I'm fired up. I mean, we really are all over the place. I'm happy that we're keeping this thing going, and it's the best time to do a sports podcast. College football is back. You're back. I'm back in school. Casey holding it down for us at the studio. But to back up off the bench, I think this is a great window for us. Like you said, we need to work out a consistent time, but there's a lot to talk about today and going to be even more in weeks and months to come.
You got that right, big boy. Now, Casey, how you doing today? You've been busy. You got a crazy day ahead. You started, of course, with Off the Bench. Now you've got us with Dialed In. You've got what? Miami field hockey, high school football. What's your day? Crazy, right?
Yeah, it's all over the place. After this show, I'll be going to Miami as soon as possible because the game starts at 2. Reed is going to go down there right now and help set that all up. I'll be doing field hockey for the first time. I've never produced a field hockey game, let alone really followed the sport. So that's going to be a little interesting for me, navigating those waters. Elliot will be there as a camera operator. That should also be interesting. The other game I'm going to be doing today is Baden, the Baden high school football team. And I've never been to Baden either. Out of all the years I've been here at Chatterbox, we all know that Reed loves doing the Baden games, but he's not able to do so this Friday. So I'm going to be going down there and doing the games for Baden. Then this weekend, I'm going to be right back at Miami, I think Sunday, for more soccer or field hockey. I can't remember which one.
Wow. And
Miami soccer, they play South Carolina, which is a ranked opponent. And they are a very, very good soccer club. Very, very exciting for Miami this weekend. So,
well, Luke, speaking of covering sports, you are covering the beat. You applied for that job, and thank goodness you were one of the 4 people selected to cover the Indiana football team all year long. A lot of excitement around there. Curt Cignetti, the new head coach, leaving James Madison, coming to Indiana. So you got that going on, and you're doing volleyball next week. Is that right?
Yeah, it kind of came out of nowhere. Just try to do it all. And I'm not a volleyball guy. I will be seeing UC Davis on Monday night. So that's Labor Day. For the first game of the year, I think it's going to be a good game, but I'm more focused on tomorrow for Indiana football. Yep. There's finally excitement in Bloomington when it comes to football. I mean, Curt Cignetti, say what you want about him. He's a cocky, confident guy, but he really does have the track record so far. However, this is a big job. He was at Elon. He was at James Madison. He was at a couple FCS schools. But now you're in the Big Ten, and this is not just the Big Ten anymore. It's the 18-team Big Ten. So we'll see how he hangs in there. They play Florida International tomorrow afternoon. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, it's interesting though, and this is off topic a little bit, but you and I have talked about this. It really is going to be interesting to see what Cignetti does here, because I have always felt like I would rather have the coach who has been somewhere or somewheres, plural, and all he does is win. I mean, and I always go back to Brian Kelly. Now, Kelly's been elite level school for so long now. Of course, he comes from a small school in Michigan. Then he goes to UC, where he gets into a couple of BCS games. And then he goes, of course, to Notre Dame, all-time winningest coach. Now he's at LSU. The one thing Kelly always did was win. He won multiple championships at the smaller school level, like Cignetti has done. And he is a head football coach. Because when you're at those lower schools, man, you got to coach, you got to do everything. I think Cignetti's going to be a very interesting guy. If I were hiring a head coach, he would be the kind of guy I would go after, rather than, say, somebody's, young star offensive coordinator at Ohio State or young star defensive coordinator at Penn State. That's what I would do. I think Cignetti, I'm rooting for the guy. I'd love to see Indiana football go well, not just because you're covering it, but I think it would be great. All right, we got lots to talk about today. So let's start with the Reds, just to get them kind of out of the way, because they're done. They just lose 2 out of 3 to Oakland. They were fortunate to rally late yesterday and win the final game of that series. Wild game yesterday, and good for them for coming back. They fell behind early in the game. They continue to fight. You have to at least give them that. But tonight, all the talk is about Rhett Lowder. He's rated as their number 2 prospect. He was their number 1 pick, you may remember, a year ago. And he's going to make his major league debut tonight against the Milwaukee Brewers. So even though the season has now become officially a lost season, it will be exciting to see Lowder. And I want to say one thing here, and it's not patting myself on the back. I'm not doing that. But everybody looked at me like I was crazy when I said before this season started, the thing that concerned me the most was the number of innings the Red starters were going to be allowed to pitch this year. This rotation is falling apart, completely falling apart. Now, you can say, well, the guys are injured. True, they're injured. And I hope that Hunter Green comes back. But it's now 4 trips to the injured list this season for Lodolo. He didn't pitch at all last year. And we talked about how much he'd be able to pitch this year. I think he's actually pitched more than we thought he would this year. Ashcraft back in the minor leagues. Abbott has run out of steam. He ran out of steam last year, and God bless him for taking the ball when they were still in the hunt. But that's the one thing people don't talk about when you're looking at your baseball team moving forward to next year. They have a formula. And Tom Verducci, the writer for Sports Illustrated, and you see him on Fox, he's a guy that kind of came up with this thing, and a lot of teams have bought into it, about you don't ask your starters or pitchers to pitch more than 15% of the number of innings they pitched the season before. When the Reds go into next season, and I'm saying it now in August of this year, they're going to have the same issue next year that they had this year. You're only going to be allowed to pitch Hunter Green so many innings next year. Nick Lodolo, so many innings next year. Andrew Abbott, so many innings next year. And so you're going to start the season knowing in September, as we said before this season started, that if the Reds are in the hunt, you're going to have to keep an eye on these starting pitchers and how much you're going to let them pitch. It's a big problem because they can't get these guys through an entire season. All right, on to football. Bengals. I'm going to ask you guys right now. I tell you, you start watching the national shows and all that kind of thing. This Jamar Chase thing has turned into a big. I don't know what to think about it. Luke, what do you think?
Yeah, I really don't know. NFL free agency is so tough because nothing is even set in stone. Even when you sign the contract, the guaranteed money can get so weird. You can get it spaced out and whatnot. I just don't really know what their plan is right now. And the fact that it has officially interrupted Zach Taylor from coaching and getting this football team ready to go a week from Sunday, this is an issue. I heard he's been taking practice reps inside, just getting some chemistry with Joe. But at this point, it is getting really close to the deadline where you're like, are you preparing to play without the best playmaker in the NFL arguably on Sunday? It's really weird. I was very high on Jamar Chase, and I wasn't panicking. And I'm not going to say that I'm panicking yet, but worry is starting to creep in for someone who originally was very laxed about it.
All right, well, let me ask you this, though, because I think this is the question. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Now you're starting to creep into that area of where the fans start to get a little upset. And it's who they're upset with. But the bottom line is the easiest thing in the world to do is to get mad at the owner. That's an easy thing. Anybody can do that. But Jamar Chase, if you were to go to the fans and say, do you love Lamar Chase? 99.9% of the fans before this whole thing with Jamar Chase said, we love Jamar Chase. But now all of a sudden, I think it's starting to creep in where fans are saying, wait a minute now. We know he wants to be, we get the business side of football. But we root for the Bengals to try and go out and win their first game and to win all 17 of their games and to advance into playoffs and to advance into the Super Bowl. And now all of a sudden, because of business reasons, he could be jeopardizing that. Casey, are you getting a little south on Chase? You get that feeling people are getting south on Chase?
I do get the feeling that fans are starting to get frustrated with him. I even think before the situation they were already getting frustrated with him. But it definitely kind of extrapolated those feelings. It definitely really brought them to the surface because he practices for a day and we think, oh, things are all doing fine. And then he sends out an encrypted tweet kind of suggesting that he's upset with the team. And then all of a sudden he's not practicing again. To me, me personally, it's a shot at the ownership to try to get them to take Jamar more seriously in these negotiations. It feels like to me that people just kind of were like, oh, see there, we all knew that Jamar would eventually practice or eventually play this year. That's what the majority of fans here in Cincinnati have said. Now I'm starting to think that's not the case. I think he could easily pull a Chris Jones, who last year sat out week 1 against the Lions, where they lost the game by 1 point. So it could easily happen to the Bengals. Luckily, the Bengals play some cupcakes in the first couple weeks of the year. You play the Patriots. You play.
Well, they got Kansas City. They got Kansas City week 2.
Right. That's a big game, but the rest of the beginning of the season is pretty easy for them to still win ball games, whether or not Chase is out there or not. So it could get ugly, and I'm starting to lean more towards that he could miss games here soon. I'm not all the way there yet, but it's definitely getting to a point where fans are getting frustrated. I think he's getting frustrated with how people have perceived him holding out this entire time, and it's going to get ugly, I think.
I'll say this.
Are you getting a little south? Yeah, I want to hear what you have to say about this.
Yeah, I just think that at this point, when we're talking about it getting ugly, the one thing and the great equalizer in all of free agency when it comes to superstar players is that cash is king. CeeDee Lamb, that got ugly. When you're going back and forth publicly with the owner of the franchise, that is ugly. We're not there yet. But to the point of that, the second CD got what he wanted, oh, he's good. He's good to go. Draft him number 2 overall in fantasy. He's going to score 20 touchdowns. He's going to go for 1,500. Like, you see the point? At this point, I'm in the sense where we are the Cincinnati Bengals. We have not been good outside of this Joe Burrow era in a really long time. Like, we've been good, but not really Super Bowl contenders. This team is a Super Bowl contender, and you're going to be looking back, whether it's decades from now, years from now, saying, dang, that Joe Burrow run was fun. And you either got a Super Bowl and a Lombardi trophy out of it, or you didn't. And that's how you're going to look back on it. And if you're looking back and saying, well, we missed the playoffs in 2024 by 2 games, Jamar Chase didn't play until week 4, he still got paid, it doesn't make any sense to me. Give him the money he wants. Call it quits. Say what you want about Jamar Chase, but the Bengals better gear up to win a Super Bowl because this is a nonsense distraction at this point.
See, here's my thing, and I think all of us that have followed the Bengals realize, going back to the whole Carson Palmer thing years ago, demanding a trade, and the Brown family was like, not a chance. Of course, weeks and weeks went by before he's traded to the Raiders. But when you look at this whole thing, we've talked about the Bengals being so many millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars below the salary cap. Now, if they had spent up to the salary cap or close to it, and they said, look, we're not going to give Chase the contract right now because we're close to maxing out on trying to make this a bowl team, trying to fill every little hole there is by spending money on players, I'd be okay. But if they're going to go into the season, and Luke, we've talked about this, every year the Bengals go into a season, $5, $10, $15, $18, $19 million under the salary cap. If you're going to go into it under like they are right now, then why not spend the money on Chase?
That's my whole point, and we can move on from the topic because I think the best way to summarize it is they have reached a point where it's August 30th. We're about to start a new month, and it's about to be a game week. And it's at the point where you either sign him and he plays and he's happy and he's a Cincinnati Bengal for the rest of his career, arguably, or we're all suddenly freaking out about a season that we're supposed to be extremely confident in. You pay the guy, get him his money, say what you want about him. He's a hell of a player. He deserves the money. I know he's kind of being a diva about it, but at the end of the day, this is a business, and I think we'll have to leave it at that.
I just think fans, Casey, don't want to hear about the business side of sports. I mean, you're a fan. Luke's a fan. I'm a fan. We're no different else. We just get paid to talk about it sometimes. But listen, I think Luke brings up a great point. I mean, if all of a sudden, for some reason, he decides to sit out a game, and for whatever reason, the defense is no good anymore like it wasn't last year, and New England comes in here and wins his first game, and assuming for a second that Chase doesn't play, the contract doesn't get done, I don't think you can talk about this topic enough. The fans and the town are going to go ballistic at both sides. If Chase doesn't play week one, like you alluded to Chris Jones last year, to win the Super Bowl, okay, fine, that's fine. And there's something to be said for that. But people are going to go crazy. If he doesn't play, and you can blame whatever side you want, both sides, everybody's right, nobody's wrong, everybody's wrong, nobody's right. They're going to go crazy if this thing doesn't get done. And we're starting to simmer on that level now. That's why I don't think you can talk about this topic enough.
Yeah, I'm with you, Tom. I do feel that, like you said, it's simmering right now. Both sides are getting a lot of heat. We already know that Jamar is going to get that money regardless if it's not with the Bengals. He's going to get that money with another team.
Yeah.
So you might as well pay him now. And it's beneficial for them to pay him now. You don't want to wait until next year. The cap hits get outrageous if you wait a year. So it doesn't make any sense to just kick this can down the road. And I know you've said in the past that they are able to because, I mean, he signed a deal. He's got 2 years on his deal left. But at this point, I mean, if you're already going to give him that deal, say, next year, you might as well do it now so it's more beneficial for you. And I think that's the argument. And I'm with you 100%, Luke. The office should just get it done. Like, both sides just need to get over it and realize that Jamar Chase, regardless of however you think of him, he is a top NFL receiver in this league. He deserves top money because he's next in line to receive that top money. So he should just get that money. He's going to get it with another team regardless. So
I got to tell you, everybody talks about the CeeDee Lamb deal and the Justin Jefferson deal and how that plays into the hands of Chase's side and his agent and all this thing. I got to tell you, after seeing the deal that Ayuk got yesterday, $120 million, I think that is more of an impact on Chase's deal than anything. He's not even the best receiver on his own team. I mean, he's a nice player. He's a good player. And there are games he will be the star of the game. But he is not in the same galaxy as Jamar Chase. I think that Ayuk deal is a big deal in relation to Chase. Luke, you agree with that or disagree?
Yeah, they all are big deals. I mean, Brandon Ayuk getting that money, I think, is more in the sense of the Niners are in the same position the Bengals are. You got to go get it now. Brock Purdy
Yeah,
proved that he
that's
can
right.
take a team
Yeah.
deep in the playoffs. And it's more about like if you let Brandon Ayuk go and he goes to like a New York Giants or a team that really needs like a true wide receiver one of those teams that needed T. Higgins this offseason. It's one of those situations where it's like Brandon Ayuk's probably going to have a even more breakout year and turn into a top 10 receiver in the NFL, be the best receiver on his team. So if you do let him go, you're going to look like a fool. And if you hold on to him, like you said, he's going to have games where he goes for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. But there's also going to be Deebo Samuel games. And that's the same with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. At the end of the day, I think that Casey and I are on the same side. I think you're taking more of the fans' perspective on the thing that's saying, dude, you're still getting paid a couple $1 million. You're still under your rookie contract. Go play. But he is a top 3 receiver in the National Football League. Everyone else got their bag this summer, and he deserves it. The Bengals have the money. You give it to him. He's produced. He's proven it. And one thing is to note, and I want to end the Bengals talk because there's a lot to talk about with college football. I had a little buy or sell on Joe Burrow, and I think we can incorporate this into Jamar Chase. The Bengals paid Joe Burrow that record-breaking, just unbelievable contract that everyone knew was coming, right? If you don't pay Jamar, then what really is your franchise philosophy here? Because Jamar at least has been consistently healthy. He's played. I mean, he's been beat up.
Hold on a second. He has not played an entire season yet in his career.
Okay, but I'm saying for a wide receiver, that is not outlandish. It's not like Joe Burrow has missed significant time.
Yeah,
He's really only played one complete season, and they were able to throw that money at him. So from an ownership perspective, you have no reason to not pay Jamar Chase.
Well, I got to tell you, I really like their wide receiver room. There are a lot of questions in there, but you do still have Higgins, who has looked fantastic here in the preseason. And the guy's a player. When he's healthy, he's a hell of a player, top 10 receiver in the league. But now all of a sudden, Yoshabas, we'll see about Burton. I think they've got. We'll see. We'll see. There's no doubt they're better with Chase. I don't want anybody to misunderstand me. They're far better with Chase. But this topic, I think, is a fascinating one to talk about, and we'll continue to talk about it until it gets done. I mean, it's all they're talking about on these national NFL shows. I don't know. All right, we got college football. It kicked into high gear last week when Florida State got knocked off by Georgia Tech. Florida State preseason ranked number 10. I thought that was way too high with who their quarterback is. And they get beat. Georgia Tech, I went down to the ACC meetings. They think they're going to be good, and they played like it. Last night, you get Deion Sanders, who's in the news all the time. And Deion Sanders, Colorado wins against a very good North Dakota State team, 31-26. And I got to tell you, fellas, and I know we're not going to spend a lot of time on this because I'm not so sure how many people care about it. Although if you look at the ratings numbers from last night, people love watching Colorado with Deion Sanders there. And I have to tell you, as far as a 1-2 punch is concerned, and their team is not going to be very good. Their defense is not very good. They're just not that great. But I'll tell you one thing. Between the coach's son, Shedeur Sanders at quarterback, he throws for 445 night. And without a doubt, the best player in college football, and it's not even close, is this Travis Hunter kid. What he did last night, for those of you that don't know, he's a two-way player. He plays every play in the game. Last night, 7 catches, 132 yards, couple of touchdowns, and he plays every play on defense at cornerback. I've never seen anybody like this guy in my life.
He's unbelievable. The fact that you got to give credit to Shedeur and him for doing this. I know Hunter was beat up last year, and Deion has a lot of transfers and guys like that who arguably deserve credit. But like Shedeur consistently is going for 450 yards. He always hits the big ones. He's dual threat. And Hunter, we've never really seen anything like it outside of just dating back to the legendary guys who were two-way players. But the fact that you can do it in today's game and at that high of a level, like, yeah, sure, go find some athletic kid that can catch a couple slant passes, go on a jet sweep, and then he plays defense. This kid is dominating on both sides of the ball. And if he can stay healthy, I think he's going to have just unbelievable numbers on both sides of the ball this entire season.
Yeah, I mean, I sit there and I think to myself, in a day and age where, I mean, look no further than the Reds, or look no further than some of these other teams and players around sports. Whatever Travis Hunter does in terms of the physical conditioning for his body, I think he ought to write a book, because I sat there and watched it in this hotel room last night. I just couldn't believe it. You say, well, he's playing against okay, fine, I don't care. He does it when he plays against Texas. He does it when he plays against anybody else that Colorado plays. He's out there for the entire game. He's not one of these cornerbacks that shies away from hitting somebody. He's coming up in the run game and blasting guys 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Oh, and then when they punt the ball back, he's still standing on the field and he's catching everything, and not just good catches. That one touchdown in the corner last night, that's a pro catch. Great player, pro catch. Casey, did you get a chance to watch him much at all last night?
I did watch some of the highlights, specifically Travis Hunter, because I just know that he's a phenomenal football player, phenomenal talent. I personally think, he is one of a kind, special type player. I wish that he wouldn't play both sides, because then he would last all season. For sure. He did get banged up last year, and he probably will be in the NFL this upcoming season. So I'd like for him to maybe slow down on the amount of reps that he gets. But hey, I mean, kudos to him. He's able to do both sides very, very well, very efficiently. I talked to Jacob. He's our college football expert. Many people have him as a NFL receiver. He thinks he could be an NFL cornerback and be a star, and it's hard to argue, because he puts up the numbers when he's out there. He gets the pass deflections, the interceptions. He's shutting down guys. He's able to catch, like you said, make NFL type catches. It's phenomenal. There's no one like him, and it's probably been since Deion Sanders, to be honest with you. And that's probably where he's able to learn all these things, is from Deion. So what a phenomenal guy.
Yeah, and if you look at the ratings last year, they break them down at the end of the year about national games of the most watched teams. And over the course of a season, Ohio State and Michigan dominate everybody as far as national TV ratings are concerned. It used to be Notre Dame was part of that group, not anymore. And they still do well, but they don't do anything like Ohio State and Michigan. Oregon never will, because of where they're located. Alabama and Georgia, they'll get big time. But I'm telling you right now, Colorado last year, I think, was 6th or 7th. If they can find a way to win games with that duo of Sanders and Hunter, they're going to be in the top 5 this year of most watched college football teams. And they're not any good. Their team's not any good.
That's crazy.
When they play bad teams, I mean, good teams, they're going to get drilled. But we'll see. It was unfortunate last night. North Carolina did beat Minnesota 19-17, but Max Johnson, the quarterback at North Carolina, he's the son of former NFL Super Bowl winning quarterback Brad Johnson. Gets hurt. It's a hip injury. It appears to be very serious. This is a kid who was a star at LSU before he got hurt. He transferred to A&M, played there last year, got hurt. Now he comes to Carolina, his 3rd year, very talented dude. But now he's hurt. It was hard to watch his mom and dad in the stands last night. And I think any mom and dad who have their kids play sports like I did with you, Luke, and you're back there in the goal and lacrosse, and guys are shooting the ball at 100 miles an hour. I mean, you just sit there and your body, you're just going, oh, my God. And then when you see him get hurt, it was painful to watch his mom and dad in the stands last night, because his mom and dad both knew this was an injury. They had to send him to the hospital. So our thoughts and prayers are with him. One other college note, and I'm curious what you guys think about this, because this happens in the college game all the time. Greg Schiano is a head coach at Rutgers, and he's a great coach. I mean, the guy is a great football coach. They played Howard in their season opener last night. And this is in the who cares department, but it gets to a broader topic before we get into all our college football stuff. And that is, when you put your backup players in the game, this game was a blowout game last night. Rutgers hammering Howard, who is a very good team, Howard, for their level of college football. They won 3 conference championships. But you get back to the old adage about, do you continue to try and score? And last night on the final play of the game, Rutgers scored on an 11-yard run And the coach from Howard was upset. Were they running it up? All that kind of thing. So that was that. Okay, Luke, you are going to take over now the college football segment. We got 30 minutes left in the show. We've covered a lot of things. I'm going to hand it over to you to now take us through college football full force. Kicks off tomorrow. Let's take it away, young man. What are we up to?
Well, we're back is what we are. College football is the best. It's going to be an amazing first Saturday of the season. And you could say Dublin game last week. Yeah, it was certainly exciting, but I don't really count that as week one. I count this as week one. We have Clemson, Georgia, Miami versus University of Florida. Ohio State's playing at night. Notre Dame goes to A&M. But before we get into this week's matchup, I want to talk about just opening week talk. I'll start with you. You're doing a game this week. So for everyone listening, including myself, where can we watch? Who's doing it? How do you feel about it? Are you nervous? Are you excited? So let's just start with you, I guess.
Well, I'm very, very excited. I mean, I'm very grateful, and I continue to say it over and over, but it's a truth to have a chance to get back here and the people at the CW Network. Our game is on the CW Network nationally, 100% of the homes in America. And it will be Idaho State against Oregon State. The whole storyline, of course, with Oregon State and Washington State, they were left out in the cold when everybody else took off to the Big Ten and the Big 12. And so CW has signed to get the rights to their home games this season, both of those teams. And they play a lot of good teams. I mean, Oregon State plays Oregon, Purdue, Illinois on the schedule of both of these teams. So, a lot of these games the first week, like this one, FCS team, it should be, Oregon State should hammer this team tomorrow. But it's going to be really cool to get back in the booth, and I can't wait for tomorrow.
All right, well, we're fired up for you. When we look at college football as a landscape, and especially the show being Cincinnati or at least Ohio area oriented, what do we think about Lane Kiffin? I mean, I'm asking this in the sense of Ohio State, get the point out there. Are they national championship or bust this year? I think it's for sure and a no-brainer. But more to the point, with Kiffin, did you see him retweet that article about Ohio State's $20 million roster?
I did. And I mean, look, Lane Kiffin is out there, man. And I mean, that's one of the things I love about him. We sit around all the time and we talk about players or coaches who are vanilla. They never say anything. It's just all the same. It's the process, all that nonsense. Look, I give it up to Kiffin. I'm not necessarily a big fan of the way he's handled things through the years, Tennessee and, all that kind of thing. But I got to tell you, the guy's a good football coach. He's got his players back on everything. He's not afraid to step into some topics that some other guys are. Everybody knows Ohio State's spending a fortune on this team. They were able to go out and get players who were going to the NFL to come back for a senior year. They were to go out in the transfer portal, get Judkins away from Kiffin at Mississippi, to get Will Howard from Kansas State, to get the kid Caleb Downs from Alabama, the safety, who many believe might be the best defensive player in the country as a safety. Look, Lane Kiffin's just throwing stuff out there. He doesn't mind stirring the pot. You have a problem with what he did?
No, I don't. I just thought the whole timing of it was weird. Obviously, he just reposts the article. He didn't retweet it. He took the link and posted it. And it's an interesting article. And if they ask him about it, I'm sure they already have. He's got the classic college football politician answer where he's like, I just thought it was interesting, But they really did snipe one of the best running backs in the country, if not the best, just completely away from an Ole Miss team that you're looking at it and you're saying money was probably 95% of the reason here, because Ole Miss is in the preseason top 5. They have national championship aspirations. And as for someone who's never been there and only heard that it's like heaven on earth down there on a Mississippi Saturday, it seems like a tough place to leave. So, yeah, he probably has reason to be frustrated because the kid was thrown an absolute check. But do what you want. I thought it was interesting. I like when college football coaches are out there. There's too many politics now that say all the right thing. I love that you said that. So do your thing, Lane Kiffin. Just like a couple days before the season starts, kid, come back to bite you if you lost to like a low-ranked team. and you're worried about other teams' rosters. But I think both squads are in for a great year, and I think it'd be awesome if they were to meet in the college football playoff.
Well, I've got Kiffin and Ole Miss 2 weeks from now playing at Wake Forest, and Wake Forest won their first game last night, but Ole Miss will be a huge favorite in that game. The Ohio State thing. I read where there have been a number of scouts, NFL scouts, that say they have never seen a college football team with this many pro players on the roster. And of course, the people who are jealous will go out and say, well, Ohio State went out and bought all those players. Look, they're all playing by the same rules. I mean, it's interesting that Kiffin would say that because he's had as many transfers as anybody in the country this year. And they're not coming there just because they like Ole Miss. They're coming there for some cash. Oregon, people up here, I mean, I just got off the plane yesterday, and, they have their lovers and they have their detractors out here in Oregon. And all people talk about is how much money they've spent on their team. So look, that's the rules we play by now. So if people want to go out there and be jealous of it, that's fine. I get it. I totally get it. But the bottom line is they're not doing anything wrong. They're not doing anything illegal. And they, being every single one of these college football teams that's going out and spend the money the way the Ohio States, the Oregons, and some of these schools are. That's the way the game is played, and you better get used to it until it changes.
Yeah, I'm just happy that they're going to lace him up, kick off the ball. I mean, as early as tonight, yesterday, but especially Saturday. And we're finally going to be done having this conversation. You can make the argument that there's going to be more regulations put in the future. I'd say they're going to be put in right after this season where you can't spend $20, $50 million on a college football roster. But, hey, I could be wrong. Diving into Saturday, let's start the pick'em. So
all right,
we're going to do a 3-way pick'em.
Okay.
Obviously, you and I, Casey is full on in. We're going against the spread, no totals, and I'm going to come up with the games we pick every week. I don't know if Ohio State and Miami of Ohio will make it in there or UC every week, but I'm going to try to have at least one or two local teams and then obviously the best games of the week. So I say we jump right into it.
Let's do it.
To start, at noon tomorrow, could be the game of the day. It's Clemson versus Georgia at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. The spread is 12 right now, obviously, with the Bulldogs being favored.
All right, you want to start, Casey? You want to start? Who you want to start in first?
Let's just go in order of the graphic. You, Casey, and then I'll go.
I had a chance to meet with Dabo Sweeney a couple weeks ago at the ACC meetings, and I think the key for this Clemson team is going to be the quarterback position. Look, Clemson was, 3 years ago, they were what Georgia is now. They had won a couple of national championships. They were playing in the Final Four every single year. Dabo has come under fire for not going all in on the transfer portal thing. He's taken a lot of grief from his own fan base about it, as they're watching the States and the Ole Misses and the Oregons and everybody else and his brother dive full force into that. The Klubnik kid is unbelievably talented. I had a chance to sit down and talk with him for a while. Great kid, Texas kid, and he has his ups and downs. But I continue to look. I think Clemson's a good team this year. I think eventually they're going to be a good team. But I think Georgia covers this in week one. I think Georgia just has so much veteran leadership, including their quarterback, and I think they cover. Casey?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Tom. I really it's hard to bet against Kirby Smart-led Georgia Bulldog team. Dabo Sweeney had a down year last year. I'm just going to wait to see it first before I can really start betting on it. And it's gone down. It was at 13.5, and it's only gone down further, which would lead me to believe that the books want you to pick Clemson. That being said, then or not Clemson, they want you to pick Georgia. But even so, I'm still going to be betting on Georgia on this one.
Okay. Lukey?
Yeah, I was in my prime with this a couple years back. At the end of the day, I just like reading the line. Casey said it. If the line opens at 13.5 and it goes down to 12, within a day of the game. I'm not saying it's surefire. I'm just saying if you follow the trends consistently, where there's a lot of people that are betting on Georgia already at 13 is the line, and the odds makers are moving the line down to 12 to make it more enticing to bet on Georgia. Say what you want about Dabo and those guys. They're going to show up. The crowd is going to show up. And I think they keep it within 2 touchdowns. So give me plus 12.
Wow.
With
Wow. Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, that could be a big swing early in our little – because we're going to do a season-long standing, by the way. Yep. So maybe I lose 2 to those guys or pick up 2. Moving on to the next game. Penn State versus West Virginia. And I don't think a lot of people have really been talking about this noon kick because of Clemson, Georgia. There's a couple better games later in the day, but this is going to be one that I think everybody could have on their TVs down the stretch. West Virginia is an 8-point home underdog in this game, and you know Morgantown's going to be rocking. However, Penn State has been a little sneaky this offseason. Ole Miss has got a lot of hype. Tennessee from the SEC, obviously the powers, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State. But Penn State thinks that this could be their year too.
Yep.
What do you guys think about 8.5?
Well, no team arguably is more excited about a 12-team playoff than Penn State, because when they was playing in an Eastern and Western division, they're in the same division with Ohio State and Michigan. And it's mighty tough to try and get to a Big Ten championship game if you know they're on your schedule every single year. I think Penn State's got a good team. But I got to tell you, I mean, now look, there are a lot of people that think West Virginia might be the best team in the Big 12. Remember, Texas and Oklahoma aren't in the Big 12 anymore. So you start looking around at the rest of that conference, there's some good teams. Utah's going to be, I think, the best team when all's said and done. But a lot of people think West Virginia is going to be really good this year. And them being at home, Luke, you point out, crowd's going to be going crazy. It's an early kick. The Aller kid at Penn State last year, everybody talked about how he was going to be a great player, and maybe he will. It was his first year as a starter. But I got questions about Penn State offensively. Therefore, I'm taking West Virginia to cover at 8.5.
Tom.
I forgot Penn State. They're your guys.
Those are my guys.
Right,
yeah,
right.
My family. So you already know I'm going Penn State, but I don't even think that, despite my biases towards Penn State, that this is a crazy move by any stretch of the imagination. It's only 8.5. They beat West Virginia last year, 38-15. I know every year is a different year. Every team's a little bit different than the next, but I mean, you are going in with some more consistency with Drew at quarterback now, year 2 starting.
Yep.
I just think there's going to be some development there. I think that he's going to take a major step forward, and he's going to get this team rolling on offense. And I believe their 2 running backs are also there still, if I'm not mistaken. And that's a really great duo. I like Penn State in this matchup at 8.5. I'll take it.
Okay. Luke?
Yeah, I think what's going to come down to is the void that Penn State tried to fill. They actually hired Indiana's head coach, Tom Allen, to become their defensive coordinator. And Tom Allen always wanted to be a top coordinator at a top school, and he certainly has a resume to be one. He knows how to coach. It didn't pan out for his head coaching job at IU, but how is he going to do week 1 against Penn State? Because I think when picking this game against the spread, it comes down to, is West Virginia going to be able to score? The Big 12 has found its identity in scoring a ton of points and giving up a ton of points. When you look at that over-under at 51.5 is where it sits right now. The line of this game right now is all the way down to 7.5. I'm going to take the points with West Virginia. I really do like it. I almost feel like I like it too much in the sense, but I'm going to go with the home underdog early in the season against a new young team with not too many familiar faces, even in that coaching staff, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I think if West Virginia can come out slinging early, get a 14-7 lead, I'll be sitting pretty with a touchdown of points in my pocket.
Good. All
right, let's swing it over. It's the Battle of Florida. Miami. I know you talked to these guys. You're going to be having them a couple times this year, Dad, in the ACC, hopefully. And then the Gators in Gainesville. This line is going to surprise a lot of people. It's obviously in Gainesville, which has it as a sub-3 line right now at 2.5. But this one has stayed the same all week. The odds makers think they're all over it with a 2.5-point spread. Dad, kick us off.
Well, Billy Napier, he's on the hot seat. I mean, he's under 500 as a head coach in his 2 years at Florida. For the life of me, I don't understand, and we talked about it on the show, I don't understand what in the world has happened at Florida, because they haven't been any good since Urban Meyer left. And he left a long time ago after winning 2 national championships there. I mean, this is a school that should be a powerhouse football team every single year. Miami's the same thing. They should be a powerhouse team. Now, Miami got the kid from Washington State, Cam Ward, to come be their quarterback. They paid him a fortune. They narrowed it down to Ohio State and Miami. He goes to Miami. This kid is off the charts good. Miami is my sleeper team for this season with a college football playoff. I think if they give Ward time to throw the football and they have plenty of other weapons around him, I think Miami's got a chance to have a monster year. So I'm taking them easily to cover 2.5 in Gainesville.
All right. Let's see here. Did I put up the right team there, Tom? Sorry.
Yeah,
Yes, you did.
Yeah, okay. I'm kind of with you, Tom. I've been talking to Jacob a lot about college football landscape because I'm not as super in-depth with the teams this year. Just by being so busy, I haven't been able to catch up on everything college football. But that being said, he really loves the U. Thinks that they're going to be a really, really good football team, have a chance to win the ACC, which was a pretty bold statement and bold claims, considering Dabo Swinney's pretty much run that division or that conference for a long, long time. I have to agree. Florida has been kind of abysmal, I feel like, for the last couple seasons. They've been on the downtrend. I don't see any more real improvement from that team moving forward. And I think 2.5, it's a little bit of a misleading number. I think the U get it done easily.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we've run into our first stock trap line of the season here. I know Florida's at home, but it really seems weird that this is a 2.5-point spread. And say trap or not, I'm on the trap side. I hate to take 3 straight underdogs, but I think consistently, if I'm going to place and do well in our little standings this year, you got to take the ugly ones. You really do. This is probably one of the games that I think goes under. I think Florida's crowd and defense can hold Miami enough to the point where they'll steal a few touchdowns in the second half. I'm going to go with the Gators. I need them at 2.5. I think they probably could win this game outright and just immediately be spoiler on this season. The line's 2.5 for a reason. This is about as coin flip as it gets. I'm going to go with the home underdog one more time. 3 underdogs so far for me. I don't love it, but I'm going to trust the process here.
Boy, I tell you, this is a surprise for me, you picking them. But okay, all right. I mean, you do this stuff regularly.
All right, Akron, Ohio State, take it away. The spread's 50. I think it's since moved down to 47, but we can make this one quick. What do you guys think?
I don't think Ryan Day goes out there and embarrasses somebody by 50. The 2 guys that I'm really interested, well, the 3, I think Ohio State is just such a fascinating team, and not because I'm a fan, because you just look at different areas of their team and you just think, and the one everybody talks about the offense, can Will Howard do it? People who are watching them regularly and covering them are talking about this defense. Now, it remains to be seen, but I mean, they have stars all over the field. They're not going to give up much. But 50, no chance I'm giving anybody 50. I take Akron 50.
All right. Let me adjust the thing there, the graphic.
You thought I was going to pick Ohio State, didn't you, Casey?
I did.
Yeah.
I had you slated for Ohio State there, so I had to fix that real quick.
All right.
I'm kind of with you. I don't know. 50 is just a lot in college football. But it's doable. It's not like Ohio State hasn't put up 50 on teams before. I think about like their schedule last year, comparable team, Western Kentucky, they put 63 up on a team, giving up 10. I mean, that would cover the spread then and there.
Cover it.
But again, they played Youngstown State and only put up 35 and gave up 7. So it's like, it's definitely a flip of the coin. I feel like I'm going to personally go with Akron. I know all the Ohio State fans in our chat hate that, but 50 is just a lot. It's a lot to bet on.
Yeah.
50 is a ton. These super high spreads are tricky because unlike Miami versus UF, those guys are putting their bodies on the line on 4th and goal, 3rd and 1, the entire second half to win that game. Come the second half of this game, it's going to be a 25, 35-point game in the sense where is Ohio State really trying? Are they playing their backups? This is the thing I'm going to say about Ohio State. I'm going to take Ohio State at -50, and it's because if there's any team that's ranked in the top 5 this season who wants to go make a statement, or if there's any head coach, it's Ryan Day, and he needs to make a statement. There's a lot of question marks around this offense. Obviously, the running backs and wide receivers look great, but you're snagging a fifth-year guy in Will Howard from a Big 12 school who knows how to score. I think that they go out there on the horseshoe on Saturday, and Ryan Day might have this offense score 50 in the first half, and the defense is about as good as it gets. People are saying it could be the best in all of college football on paper so far. So I'm going to trust with the better team. I think Ohio State just runs it up on them and covers 50.
Okay. All right. And you know, one, you make a great point, Luke, because, you know, the thing is Ohio State, they've got to get this thing against lesser competition, which they have the first 4 games. They've got to rev this thing up to get ready for that Oregon game. They have got to make, and they may leave their starters in longer than you normally would when you're blowing somebody out. But they've got to find out about this offensive line. They've got to find out about this quarterback. You're right about the running backs. It's the best running back room in the country. It's the best wide receiver room in the country. But you got to be able to block for him. Howard's brand new. If I had to do it over again, I might change my mind. But I'm going to stick with it. Go ahead.
All right, he's sticking with it.
All right.
Third, we have 3 games left. Got 10 minutes left in the show. I think that this is going to be a sneaky, fun game to watch. I doubt a lot of you won't be tuned in. Dad, you would be if you were on the couch on Saturday. Ohio University versus this Syracuse Orange. Syracuse is a team that in the ACC, they're a real sleeper, and not many people are talking about them. I did a couple weeks of research coming to the season just trying to find teams that could surprise people, and Syracuse really stood out to me. If you guys don't know, they have Ohio State's quarterback from last season, Kyle McCord. And say what you want about Kyle McCord, he was a hell of a recruit. He didn't do great at Ohio State, but that is a thankless job if you don't win the national championship or make the college football playoff. He still led them to one of the greatest 2-minute drills of all time in Ohio State history against Notre Dame last year in that opening week game. I like the Orange at -17. I'll go first, but I have a feeling we're going to have somebody taking the Bobcats here.
Well, you know, look, nobody got hit harder from transfers than Ohio University this season, and it's a testament to their coach, who has done an incredible job recruiting. I mean, you're talking about a school now that has had multiple years consecutively of winning 10 or more games. This is a really good college football program. The guy at Miami is going to build the same thing if he stays there very long. But they have so many question marks. McCord, you point out, Luke. I mean, this kid lost 1 game last year. He lost 1 game. He did not play in the bowl game. He had already declared a transfer. And you lose 1 game. That 1 game was Michigan. He's out. And they didn't run him off. He decided to leave. I mean, the pressure is mind-boggling quarterbacking at some of these schools. But I'm going to take Ohio University. I still think that Syracuse, yes, McCord is there, but I think OU, despite all these newcomers, I think they're going to show up and cover.
Tom, I can't follow you in this journey. I'm going to take Syracuse in this one. I love OU. I loved them last year. It was devastating to lose Rocky like they did midway through their season. That was just devastating. They were for sure on the track to win the MAC, if you ask me. But I just, with so many question marks, I don't know hardly anyone on Ohio University's roster anymore. Like you said, they had a lot of transfers. I'm going to be keeping track of them, obviously, because I'm covering a lot of Miami sports. I'll be keeping track of a lot of the MAC schools. I'll look forward to it, but I just can't bet on them week 1.
Okay.
And I know what I get with Kyle McCord. So.
Okay. Fair enough.
All right, time to go a little more local here, and I think this is going to be a really good game when it comes to maybe not very high-powered offensively or entertaining, but this is going to be a gritty, in-the-trenches football game. Miami of Ohio versus Northwestern in Chicago. Northwestern, a 3-point home favorite, and I know a lot of people in Oxford are excited about this team. They returned their quarterback They really are excited, and they think Miami has a chance to make a run in the MAC this year. Dad, kick us off.
Well, I'm a huge fan of the coach. I think Coach Martin is not going to be there long. I think he's going to get swooped up by some major Power Four conference team. I just think he is an outstanding coach. I hope he stays at Miami, but I don't think it's going to happen. But I think they're going to cover being an underdog. I think they've got a good team, and they go up to Notre Dame in a couple of weeks. I think teams, when they play Miami, if, their question is going to be depth with a Mid-American Conference school. You can't have guys getting nicked up and hurt. But I think they show up and cover. I take the Miami Red Hawks.
Yeah, I'm with you, Tom, all the way. Northwestern stinks. They stink really bad. I love Miami's roster. I love them in the MAC right now. They're on the upswing. I think this is going to be one of those games that we pencil in as we marked it as an upset, but really Miami should have probably been favored, in all honesty.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love this game. Love Miami in this matchup.
All right, love and honor it is, boys. Put the M's across the board. I'm going to go with Miami. I think it's one of those games where if you're Northwestern, yeah, it's week one. Who's not excited for week one? You're still undefeated at the end of the day when you're lacing them up. However, this Miami of Ohio team is playing for a lot this year. They think this is their year. Northwestern, on the other hand, they don't even have a stadium to play in. They're playing on a field that's a practice field. This is not their year. I don't think they're going to be confident. And Miami is going to be coming out headhunting, trying to beat a Big Ten school in week one. I love the Red Hawks not only with 3 points, but I think they win this game outright. There's our first trifecta, if you will. Hopefully, all of us. Finally, down to the final minutes, and this is a heck of a game. Notre Dame versus A&M. Notre Dame's a top 10 team in the country. A&M is still ranked, but A&M favored by 3 at home. You have to account for how raucous that atmosphere is going to be in College Station. Dad, what do you think about ND versus A&M?
Well, the one thing I didn't realize, Luke, until this week and starting to read a little bit about this game is you got the new quarterback who came from Duke in Riley Leonard, who's now the quarterback at Notre Dame. His coach at Duke, Mike Elko, is now the head coach at Texas A&M. This presents a very interesting dynamic. I'm told, I've never been there, I'm told that maybe the best college football atmosphere in the country for a big game is in College Station, as you talked about. But I think Notre Dame's good. They got an outstanding running game. They've got a good offensive line. They return a lot of guys from defense. I think Notre Dame's got a good team, and I think they easily, not only cover, I think they win the game.
All right, fellas. This is, Notre Dame is one of my sleeper teams that I love to follow. I wouldn't say they're my number one fandom in the world, but I do root for them on occasion. And this game in particular is very important for Notre Dame. I mean, if they lose this one, you could pretty much just forget about them. Well, I guess now you can still consider them in the playoffs because they can lose games because they would be the out of conference team. But I feel like this is an important game for them to say that they're here, that they're a legitimate team, that you should be worried about them. I'm going to take Notre Dame in this one. I don't know much about Texas A&M, to be honest with you, but I just know that if Notre Dame were to lose this one, people would just think they're a laughingstock.
Yeah, and I mean, their schedule this year, normally they play one of the toughest schedules in the country. That is not the case this year. This is a huge game for Notre Dame. They've got Florida State at home later in the year. Florida State's already lost a game. I mean, maybe by then they'll be great. And they got USC on the road, and we'll see what SC is all about. But Luke, your mom, my wife, Notre Dame alum, you better make her happy in case she's watching.
Yeah, the hell with that. Give me the Aggies at home. They beat Notre Dame.
Wait, whoa. You can't say that about your mother.
Okay. It's nothing against my mom, but at the end of the day, a home favorite is a home favorite in a huge game. It is going to be beautiful. That 7:30 scene under the lights. Notre Dame absolutely gets dominated in this game in the trenches. I think that their new quarterback – Notre Dame is finding this new philosophy where they're getting these older quarterbacks now from the ACC. They got Sam Hartman from Wake Forest. Now they're going to Riley Leonard, who is like the next big emerger in the ACC quarterback competition. I think he's going to do really good for Notre Dame. But something that Marcus Freeman has not necessarily done is win the big one. This is not the huge one, But for Notre Dame's schedule, they know how much this means.
Yeah.
The competition to get in the playoff with the criteria that it is, conference champions get into the playoff. And Notre Dame not playing in a conference, they have to be one of those last 6 teams. And winning this game is going to do wonders for them. However, they don't win the game. The Aggies win the game at home. And I'm going with Texas A&M here. I'm really confident about that pick. I think that this home atmosphere, especially an opening night of college football, goes even longer when it comes to a 4-point swing in this game. I would say that Notre Dame, if this game was in South Bend, they're probably upwards of a 4 to 5 point, maybe even a touchdown favorite. But you have to give respect to Aggie land, and I'm going to take the Aggies at home.
Boy, oh boy, I thought your mom and I raised a different young man, Luke. I mean, I don't get worked up about it, you picking against Notre Dame, but now I got to hear it from your mom probably in a text in the next matter of minutes.
Well, she's in the chat right now, actually.
Yeah, she had this to say: "You will not be going to South Bend with me again."
That is good stuff, Pauls. That is good stuff. I miss you. All right, fellas, we got to get rolling. We got a lot going on today, and this has been a fun show. I think we're going to have a great time during college football and pro football, of course, next week. We will not be here on Monday because of the holiday, but we will be back next Friday with picks in college and the pro. Luke, anything you want to get off your chest before we get out of here?
No, we'll do a little recap for half the show next Friday. Stay tuned and stay dialed in with all of our social medias. You guys know them because there's going to be time changes. I'm now in Bloomington in college. You are wherever the heck you are in Oregon, and Casey holding it down in the great Hamilton, Ohio. So the timings may be weird. We're in different time zones, but we will continue to do dialed in, and I'm really excited about this football season and especially come the National Football League next Sunday.
I'm glad you're running the show now, Luke. That's what I'm glad. It's your time now to run dialed in because you are dialed in, much more than I'm dialed in. Casey, anything you want to get off your chest here before we get out?
No, you guys wrapped it up just nicely.
All right, but wait a minute. The one thing we didn't do today, we got to make it.
Yeah.
I mean, Luke, I thought that you would remember this. All right, please make us older people a little more hip.
Could be the move.
Yes.
Going on the weekend, it's Friday. It's a long weekend. So this is actually one of the bigger could be the moves of the year, if you will.
Yeah.
This segment, just to clarify quickly, it's what are you doing this weekend that is your move? What's the play? What's the plan? What's going to be fun? Casey, you go first. What do you got for us?
Oh, man. I already kind of leaked it a little bit earlier. I'm going to be working this weekend. However, the days I'm not working, my wife has been sending me updates on this dog that we looked at about a week ago.
Go get it.
It might be time to go get this dog.
Go get it.
I think that's a sign that if it's not been adopted yet, it's time. It's time.
Casey, you got to go do that. Every dog and cat and animal needs a great home and lots of love. You got to go do it.
Absolutely. It's a boxer hound mix.
There you go. Go do it. I mean, those are great dogs. Oh, God bless you. And your wife for being on this. Lukey?
I don't know. There's a lot going on in Bloomington. It's a beautiful Friday. However, I got to work this weekend. I'm calling the volleyball game on Monday, which has a lot of prep that I need to do, including learn the entire sport. I'm working on the beat tomorrow for the football team, so that's going to be an exciting kickoff. But I think Friday, apparently Kappa's coming over to our house for a slip and slide in the backyard. I think that's my move of the weekend. So to make you old folks feel young again, I'm going to have a good Friday.
Oh, my God. Casey, can you imagine a slip and slide?
I also have a little 2v2. I'm in a 9-hole golf league against Theta Chi today. We're going to the local dog track. We have a 2v2. And it's like a fall-wide points game. So I'm paired up with my man Jacob Torin. We play at 1:30, or actually I think we're at 1:45 now. But I got to go get ready to tee him up in a big-time matchup.
I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, the life of the college student. Oh, my Lord. God bless you. Enjoy every single second of it. The move for me is right here working again. I'm just so doggone excited. Man, I'm getting nervous, really nervous. It's been 2019 since I did a football game. So I'm getting ready to go over and meet with the coaches at Oregon State, about an hour. And the move is do the game, and let's go get them. So, fellas, thanks for everything. Casey, thank you for all your hard work. Safe travels going up to Oxford and all points beyond back to Baden. Lukey, have a great Friday in the slip and slide. And to all of you who are kind enough to join us, we thank you so much. And we'll look forward to seeing you next Friday. Everybody, please be careful this weekend, okay? Please be careful. Be smart. Make good decisions. It's a long weekend. Family, friends, have a great time. God bless. And we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us on Dialed In.